Hi, everyone. How are you? Spence, good to see you. Get started? Just want to start off by saying this, as I told you at the beginning of the season, that this could be a really productive, informative season for us to evaluate our players, our staff, and there were a lot of positives that came from this season. As I know it was tough with wins and losses, but the development of our young players, the establishment of a continued culture and foundation. I couldn't be more proud of our coaching staff and our players, that they tried to play the right way. They were coached hard. We were prepared and largely competitive. So those small W's that we talked about at the beginning of the season rather than a lot of big W's as far as the record, I couldn't be more happy. I also am really continue to be awed by our fans and our community for the support that they give us every year. 333 home sellouts is amazing, and in large part, I think those fans were there every night and understanding what was at stake and really getting behind our young players. And I know each of them, to a man, have acknowledged those fans and community every day. As you guys know, around the NBA, this is one of the most unique fan bases in cities. There's so many competitive teams out there that are in the playoffs, and we go to their arenas and it's half full. It's just amazing. So thank you to our fans and the support of our organization, and it's never lost on us for that support. So I guess I'll start answering questions.
Hey, Justin.
Hi, Ryan.
Before the season, we talked about that 7 guys, 23 and younger. Now that you have a year of information,
It's now 10 under 24, by the way.
Could you just take us through those guys and what have you learned about them this season?
Sure. Do you want me to go each one or highlight ones and you want to follow up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. So let's start with the rookies first. Obviously, the way the summer goes and you get drafted and it's just a whirlwind for them. I think that having gone through this for a couple years, being able to establish an immediate foundation, and we needed time. Every rookie needs time to adjust to the speed, to the schedule, and it always takes a little bit. But you could see when they had opportunities to play that there were always flashes of stuff. So Kyle, learning how to integrate being both a 4 and a 5, and constant, changing in lineups and figuring out how to play. You could really see that he knows how to play and his basketball IQ. And then for him, really just you learn lessons every game about the physicality of the game and all of these notes that we put together for him and in consultation with him of what he needs to do this summer. We have individual development plans for each of these guys, and so for all 3 of these rookies, this summer is probably the most important summer of their young careers because they finally have time to train. With Isaiah, thing that I noticed about Isaiah that I really enjoy, I think the point guard position is really, really hard to play, especially as a 20-year-old. But he demonstrated early that he knows what's going on in the game, time and score, who's played well, who needs the ball. Certainly, he has things to work on, but just his pace and strength at 20 years old and be able to even break a fairly significant record in Jazz history of having the most assists as a rookie is impressive. Those 2 aren't fully formed players yet and will be here all summer, but was very, very pleased with their development, even though there were some lumps at times. With Cody, when we took Cody, he's got a very good brain. He's in the right places most of the time and kind of understands what's going on in the game. We knew that physically that he was going to take a lot more time than necessarily some of the other guys that were more physically ready. And his time on the court, while he struggled, with certain aspects, I think they were good reinforcement lessons again of what he needs to do this summer. And that is just from a strength standpoint, understanding the speed of the game. He has so many good tools with his size and his length and his brain that there's a lot of things he needs to work on. But I know this experience for him, he wants to attack it this summer. I believe, given good health, he obviously had an illness at the end of the season, but he'll be recovered in time for training this summer. All three of them will be here. All three of them will play in Summer League. So just a really solid first year for all of them, for us to see where they are, where they can get to. And our staff does a great job in terms of development for guys that want to put in the time. Those guys are going to put in the time, and we'll see where we are in August and September. Our second-year players, I think all of them took individually different steps. Unfortunately for Taylor, obviously the season-ending injury, the third game of the season, but he's really tried to use it, take a silver lining out of it, the chance to focus on his body and the mental part of the game and studying. He was, coach made him basically an assistant coach when he was allowed to travel with the team, and you could see his personality start coming out as he worked on his body and felt more confident. He will be hopefully fully cleared for open gym and training camp. I mean, he'll be able to get on the court this summer, but he will not play Summer League. We want to be pretty conservative with that type of an injury. As fast as he is developing, you also want to give time to build strength in the lower body and those things. And he's been able to start shooting and start moving around and getting used to the new weight that he's put on. He's done an unbelievable job with his body. So in light of a very tough injury, there are a lot of positives to take from him. I think Keontae, he's always been a player that has given us some very, very good moments over the last 2 years. I know that there's been criticism sometimes of his efficiency, but I think a lot of that also is the role that we've asked him to take with a very young team. I think him being able to come off the bench and have a backcourt partner with Isaiah allowed him to be a little bit more efficient, and this summer will continue to be huge for him in terms of the feedback that he's gotten in terms of the shots that he takes, but his attitude has been great. He's a hard worker. Certainly young players still need to continue to work on lots of things, and he'll be here as well all summer. So I'm excited about that for him, and I'm excited for him to take another step. I think with Bryce, Bryce was able to, his first rookie year he was kind of behind the eight ball with the injury and playing in the G League at the beginning of the year, and showed a few signs last spring that he could shoot and could really, see the court. And I think he was largely able to establish himself as a very, very good shooter in this league. And while he has other things that he needs to develop to become a more complete player, I think those were a big step for him personally, and also for our organization, that he's got some tangible things that can apply to an NBA game and apply to an eventually championship competitive team. Who else? Is that all? You good?
No Walker.
I'll get to him. Sure.
Give you a break. I think you're right that the fans have been really impressive during the stretch. I also think that there are a significant number of fans who are frustrated or upset by the injury report, or whatever, for lack of a better word, tanking. What would you say to those fans that are frustrated with kind of the decisions and the direction of the team this year?
Sure. I think it's natural to be frustrated. I mean, I think the entire organization, we're all competitive and want to win as many games as possible. I also, the main goal of this organization is to open up a championship window to give this fan base a way to be very, very proud of a team that can go deep in the playoffs. And as we were previously constructed and presently constructed, we're building towards that. And yes, there's growing pains. There's tough nights and tough moments that our players have to go through as well. So I can fully understand why there could be some frustration where all of us would like to have some immediate gratification of doing this, and winning every game and winning a title when that's just not in the cards, but we all still have to go through it. And so I completely respect that. I guess what I would say to those that are frustrated is that there are a lot of things to be positive about or to look forward to, hopefully, with our young team and what could happen this summer, and with the extra opportunities that we've created to continue to add players that will make this organization and community proud and continue to build that championship level team. But it takes time, and so I get it.
Justin, you've got 4 players on the roster that are non-guaranteed, potentially 4 players coming into the draft, barring other moves, and then beyond that, other moves during the summer. Is there a decision with those players? When will a decision be made on them?
So we'll obviously we've had time to evaluate our players throughout the season and their growth. Obviously, a little more of those substantive meetings will continue to take place here over the next couple weeks since we just finished. A lot of the contracts kind of take care of themselves, just whether they're trigger dates or they're non-guaranteed or other opportunities. We have players that have player options. We have players that are becoming expiring, which is natural in the league. So, that evaluation and what opportunities we have will continue in the summer, but a large part of that, the contracts themselves will kind of dictate that.
Then let's go Walker, because he's extension eligible, and
Yep.
Just thoughts on him this season, kind of bouncing back from last season, and then what thoughts on his extension?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm really proud of Walker for attacking last summer, really taking the feedback he kind of learned about himself in his second season, and also the feedback from our coaching staff, especially with Will. I mean, Will is, I think you guys don't get to see it every day, but he's an unbelievable teacher, and he invests in his relationships with his players, with the front office. It's why we all are so connected, is a large part credit to him. And credit to Walker for taking that feedback and really attacking last summer. And I think in large part you saw that development on the court, not only with his body, but his pace of play, the urgency that he would play with. And it showed up statistically as well. So I think there's still more. He's 24, and like I said, really proud of him. So we'll get into those discussions this summer, and just depending on different things. But I can see him being a part of this team for a long time. His attitude and commitment to not only our organization but to himself and to this community, he's made me proud that way. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on him. He's got more to give, and I think he knows that too. And I mean that in the most positive way. 23. I guess Johnny's older than him. It's hard to keep track of the 20s when you got 10 kids.
One other obvious question, I guess, is what is the plan for the team next year, right? Do you want to try to win games and be competitive and playoff competitive, or do you want to continue building with a young team and try to attack the draft again next year?
So I wish I could tell you that that's a binary decision, Andy. The main reason that we have acquired our assets and been very disciplined about our flexibility is to be ready for any opportunity. If there is a great opportunity out there to quote unquote speed it up, we have the ability to do that. That part I'm not in control of. I mean, that's the market, but we positioned ourselves for the last couple of years to be ready for that. I also don't know what time or when those become available. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of news coming out across the league over the next month, 2 months of what that looks like. You have free agency, you have the draft, you have, a lot of trades going on. Now, historically, with the new CBA, it feels like there's more like trade opportunities and moving up and down and around in the draft than there is necessarily free agency anymore. We'll see if that changes. But the organization is aligned to like our first goal, and that's to build a championship competitive club that can go deep in the playoffs for a long time. So if those opportunities where we can kind of speed it up and do that, we'll do it. And if they don't, the flexibility allows us to do it at any time. And our big focus last year and this coming year and the following is, with the amount of young players that we have on our team, is a lot of that growth for our team is going to happen internally as well. And then strategically being able to add pieces to complement that group and to move us forward.
Potentially the same answer, but what changes in your off-season plans depending on what happens in the lottery?
I mean, look, the lottery is the lottery. I mean, we've done everything we can to control where we are. I can't control what the results are May 12th. I do know that if we select that selection, that we're going to get I think I'm excited about that, to add another good young player to our group, possibly two. Depends on, we do have two firsts this year and 2 seconds, so that gives us some flexibility to maybe move around. We do have the capacity to add a couple players through the draft with our roster. But, you guys can bring out all your rabbit's foots and lucky charms and see what happens, but we're going to be able to add a good player. And then it's our job for whatever young player we draft is to get them better and to develop them and hopefully develop into a core piece with us.
I think that would be my opinion, that Will's done a uniquely good job in getting guys to buy in despite what the situation is win-loss wise. But is he the coach that you would want once the team is starting to go in a different direction? Absolutely.
If I had a vote, I honestly would cast my vote for Coach of the Year for Will Hardy. As I said before, he's an incredible teacher, incredible communicator, a great partner. And when I say partner, not only with ownership, myself, Danny, but the players. He is truly invested in our players' individual development, as well as obviously the development for us to be better as a team. I'm actually not sure there's anybody better in the league than he is at how much he invests in our group. It helps him in two ways. One, they actually listen to him because he knows, our players know he cares very much about him, and he makes deposits every day in those relationships so that when there are tough moments or he needs to coach them hard, they respond because they know he's invested in their individual success, which is also translates to team success. So by doing, I call it something like doing your work early, and he's very, very consistent about it. It's just a credit to him, and he's a huge asset for our organization now and going forward. I couldn't be prouder of him, and this has been a tough season for all of us. I mean, I've been on the road probably 90% of the time with the team. Offer support, be there. If they're going to go through a tough season, I'm going to go through it with them. I'm not going to go run away. But to see him consistently, and the staff that he's built, have a consistent approach and a continued investment, even when the season was hard, that they woke up every day to not only do their jobs, but do it at a high level, and largely have these players respond on a daily basis to them. Even though we were a young team and we didn't always do everything right and things could get sloppy, but he got them to play hard and to be invested for the season, no matter what the result was, because he got them to believe in their own development and that they could take ownership in that. And it's something we continually preach, for them to take ownership in their development, be a partner with us for helping them get better, which obviously helps their career, but also helps us build a championship team. So he's been great.
Questions?
I'll translate for everyone else, Sandy.
Wanted to ask about the veterans. You've got John Collins, player option, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, now going into probably expiring contracts. What's your approach with them in the trade market or in general, just this offseason in terms of wanting to keep them around versus maybe finding new homes for them?
I mean, I think the first thing that I'll say is that I was really, really happy with all three of them this year in terms of their approach, their commitment to, we talked to them early about kind of heads up about what this season could look like. They're all competitors, all of us are, but, with veteran players who are, either entering their prime or in the prime of their career and who have accomplished a lot in the league already, you always want to win. You want to be in that spotlight and have meaningful games to play. And when you have seasons like we did where largely that was probably not going to be the case, for them to embrace mentoring and spending time with our young players and showing them how to be professional, showing what it means to show up to work every day and work on your craft. We had, 4 really, really good examples of that, and I'm including Lowry in that as well. So I was very pleased with that. I think if you talk to them individually, they all want to win, and I agree with that. I mean, we all want to win, but part of this too is, the contract situation and being part of an environment that they were last year. I couldn't be more pleased with what they did. As far as the future is concerned, like we'll get into those discussions with their agents and those things as we start the off season and kind of evaluate what happened last season, which, like I said, I'm very, very positive on. So we'll get into those discussions and what they want to do and stuff, but they've all been very, very engaged this year, not only with our organization, but also the community and the fans. That I think they were largely pleased that they were here, even if the results weren't great.
Lowry's been pretty vocal about his desire to stay here and that signing the extension was a signal that he didn't care what the situation was and that he believed in where the team was going. That sentiment from him, how much weight does that hold when you start to decide what could happen with him in the future?
Well, the only thing that's happening with him in the future right now is he's got 4 more years on a very large contract that we signed last year. You're always grateful when your best player gives you confidence in what we're doing as an organization, but also the confidence we have in him to extend him that long and at that significant amount. So every one of these, when you have a core player like that, like to have the partnership of understanding what's going on while also being able to coach him, like he doesn't have anything to do necessarily with our decisions as a group other than him expressing confidence in us to build a team that he wants to win just as much as anybody. And we're grateful for it, and I've enjoyed it every minute of the day that we've had Lowry on our roster. I also love the fact that not only his commitment to the organization, but his commitment to continue to improve. I think he's seen real tangible results of our ability to partner with him for him to reach the highest levels that he's ever had in his career. And so that'll just continue. And then when opportunities come up to add to the roster, but I see Lowry as a central part of what we're doing. It's why we signed him, is that we think he can be a huge piece for us as we join the competitive ranks.
I know there's a lot of work to be done in terms of evaluating the draft still to go, but as you look at this top 5, what stands out to you about this particular top 5 compared to other drafts in the past?
Sure.
And, especially around that number 5 spot, which is a possibility, it's a likely possibility. There are a number of players that can fit in around there. Do you have a favorite there? Do you have, or what are your view on kind of that side of the top 5 of that?
Yeah, so as you know, I can't talk about any individual player until the guys presumably that are declaring for the draft actually do it, and we get our list at the end of the month. But that being said, we're in a talent acquisition mode. We need to add good players for the fans, for the organization, for my coach. We need to develop them. So this draft versus, last year or the year before, it's good. There's depth. Obviously, we need to know all parts of the draft because we're all over and we do every year anyway. I think as we design our workouts and with guys coming in, like to see different things, but talent is the most rare of acquiring in the league. And also, as we get to know these players through interviews and medical and all those things will shape some of the decision making, and then also what other opportunities are out there that are related to, draft tangent related. They're all kind of intertwined. I've told you guys that before. It's not just the draft or just free agency or just trades. They're all kind of intermingled as we try to add to this team and push forward in being competitive. Wish I could give you more, but we can talk in May, okay? Thanks, guys.